Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the April 14th, 2021 Hempstead Town Board meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Clavin.
Here.
Councilman Blakeman.
Here.
Councilman Carini. Here. Councilman D'Esposito.
I'm here.
Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Here. Councilman Muscarella.
Here.
I'm now going to ask Senior Councilwoman Dorothy Gooseby to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hey, Don.
Okay, good evening again. And because of the governor's executive orders and the COVID-19 pandemic, tonight's public hearing will allow for both in-person participation and telephonic participation using the GoToWebinar. The instructions participating in the GoToWebinar and all relevant documents are on the town's website. When the clerk calls for the public hearing, first those people here in Town Hall will have the chance to speak. Then the participants on the GoToWebinar will have the chance to speak. All participants on the GoToWebinar must pay attention to the case called by our town clerk. When the public hearing is called and you wish to speak, you must click the Raise Your Hand button on the GoToWebinar. If you do not click the Raise Hand button, you will not be called. All participants in the GoToWebinar will be muted until the moderator calls your name. You must pay attention for your name and begin speaking when your name is called, or the moderator will have to go on to the next participant. The moderator will not recall anyone's name, so please pay attention for your name. If you are participating in the GoToWebinar and watching on the live stream, then you must mute the live stream when it is your turn to speak, or you will not be understood because of the feedback. Every participant will be given one chance to speak for up to 3 minutes. When you're done speaking or when the time is up, the moderator again mute you on the GoToWebinar. At the end of the public hearings portion of this meeting, the GoToWebinar will be turned off, and I encourage all those who are using the GoToWebinar to continue the listening and watching the meeting on the town's live stream. Please also note that anyone using profanity or straying off topic will be muted immediately. Madam Clerk, would you please call the first public hearing?
It is a proposed revised public parking field maps in Levittown.
Okay, first I'm going to ask if any board member wishes to be heard in this item. Okay, secondly, I'm going to ask if there's anyone here at Town Hall that wishes to speak on this matter. And I do not have any slips on that. Okay, now if anyone is participating in the GoToWebinar portion of tonight's program and wishes to speak on item number 1, would you please raise your hand? Mr. Moderator.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, since there are no more speakers, may I please have a motion?
Make a motion to close the hearing and to pass this item.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the next item?
Proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Franklin Square and Garden City South.
Okay, first, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item? Secondly, is there anyone here at Town Hall that wishes to be heard on this item? I do not have anybody signed in for it. Okay, third, I'm now going to ask if you want to participate on the GoToWebinar portion of the program. It's your chance to click the Raise Your Hand button. Mr. Moderator.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Excellent. Since there are no more speakers, may I please have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted. Second that.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Belmore, East Meadow, Inwood, and Wantagh.
Okay, first off, does any member of the town board wish to be heard on this item? Okay, I do not have any slips, but does anybody here present tonight wish to be heard on this item? All right, now it is the chance of our participants on the GoToWebinar portion to speak by raising your hand. And I will ask the moderator if he has any.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, great. Since we have no more speakers, may I please have a motion?
Make a motion to close the hearing and to pass this item.
Second motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito. Aye. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Baldwin, East Meadow, Woodmere, and Roosevelt.
Okay, first, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item? Okay, secondly, I do not have any slips in. Does anybody here at Town Hall wish to be heard on this item? All right, and if anyone's participating in the GoToWebinar portion of tonight's meeting and wishes to speak, now is your chance by clicking the Raise Your Hand button. And I will now ask the moderator if he has any.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, great. Yes. Did you want to speak on this item?
Pardon me. Hey,
Yep.
sorry.
Did you want to speak on this item, sir?
No, I did.
Oh, there you go. How you doing? He has his hand going. How you doing? If you give your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Marvin, 221 Lawson Street, Hempstead. I was just a little concerned on what this was. I wasn't sure. I was trying to look it up, and I wasn't too sure what it was exactly.
Okay, so. Stop sign locations?
Is he talking about Hempstead, though, right? Village
No,
Hempstead?
no, you're talking about the stop sign locations on this?
Yes.
Okay. Jerry?
Traffic control is here.
Hold on, I'm gonna have Chris. Mr. Reed, are you online?
Yes, I'm online.
Okay, could you just identify yourself to our speaker here tonight and then answer his question regarding these stop signs?
Yes, this is Tom Reed. I represent Traffic Control Division for the town of Hempstead. And the stop line locations for this proposal, the first one in Baldwin is on Fenimore Place at Dean Drive. The second one for East Meadow is Post Street at Bright Avenue for both directions on Post Street. And the Woodmere one is for Woodmere Place at Woodmere Boulevard, and Roosevelt is for Elmwood Avenue at Lakeside Drive for both directions.
Okay, those are the locations of the stop signs.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Did you want to speak as well? Okay, all right, great. Anybody else here wish to speak? And I think, Mr. Moderator, did we go to the raising your hand portion of that meeting already?
Yes, Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, since I don't have any other speakers, may I please have a motion?
Supervisor, I move the public hearing be closed and the item be adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Proposed local law regarding traffic regulations in the vicinity of schools in Oceanside.
First, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item? Okay, I do not have any slip. Does any member of the public here tonight wish to be heard on this item? Okay, now if you're online enjoying this in the GoToWebinar portion of the meeting is your chance by clicking your raise your hand button. And I will ask our moderator to please let us know if anybody's raised their hand.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, since there are no more speakers, may I please have a motion?
Supervisor, I move the public hearing be closed and the proposed local law be adopted.
Second motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor, we would like to now remind our participants on GoToWebinar that now that the public hearing items are concluded, the GoToWebinar platform will be turned off, and we encourage those participants to move over to the live stream on the Town Hempstead website to continue following tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, gentlemen, yeah, good. Madam Clerk, would you please call the first case on the decision calendar?
We have the application of SSV Enterprises LLC to rezone from Business District to Marine Commercial District in order to utilize the same as a marina in Oceanside.
Okay, may I please have a motion on this item?
Supervisor, I move to approve the decision.
A second motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Adopt.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please call the next decision item?
The second and last decision is the application of Neal Court Realty LLC to change the zoning of the property from Residence B to Y Industrial in order to permit development of the subject premises in accordance with the site plan submitted. That also is in Oceanside.
Okay, may I please have a motion on this item?
Supervisor, I move to approve the decision.
Second?
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the administrative calendar?
On our administrative calendar this evening, we have items 8 through 60.
Okay, I do not see any slips on the administrative calendar, but if there's anybody here in public tonight that wanted to comment on the administrative calendar, please let me know. Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Okay, since there are no more speakers, no one's indicated they want to speak on the administrative calendar, may I please have a motion?
I move the administrative calendar from number 8 through 60 in its entirety.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini. Aye. Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Clerk, may I please have a motion to adjourn?
Supervisor, I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Okay, now that the formal town board meeting has adjourned, the town board will remain to listen to the comments of its residents. I have a number of slips in tonight, and we will start with Mr. Felix Procacci. After each speaker goes, if everybody would just give a moment for a coworker to wipe down for safety protocol, we appreciate it. Good evening, Mr. Procacci. Just give your name and address for the record.
Felix Procacci, Franklin Square.
Thank you.
Last year, Supervisor Clavin announced a $40 million stimulus plan to fix the roads. Bond records show that only 5.9 of that was borrowed. When does the town plan on borrowing the remaining $34 million?
We're already doing it.
Mr. Mascherino, if you just want to give a quick address to that, thank you.
We are anticipating maybe towards the middle of the year to early fall to go out on another borrowing.
Will the borrowing be benefited by that bond upgrade?
Yes, it will.
Oh, double good news. Excellent.
That will not give enough time to use the money if the weather turns cold.
Well, you wouldn't want to pave roads in the cold.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying, but you would borrow it sooner so you could pave earlier.
Borrowing the money and authorizing it with a resolution are two different things. Cash is accumulated and kept in one place, and if there is cash available, as long as there's authorization that the board had authorized bonded debt, we can still move ahead with anything that's been authorized, whether the cash has been borrowed in its entirety or just partially.
Okay.
One has nothing to do with the other.
Thank you.
Okay. Is it necessary for the town to spend $70 million a year on road repair to prevent the town from becoming the 6th borough of Queens? That's a question.
What's your question?
Is it necessary for the town to borrow $70 million a year in order for it not to prevent it from becoming the 6th borough of Queens, of New York City?
That's okay.
Excuse me.
That's all right. Like I said, the town board, we made a determination we wanted to invest in the infrastructure of the roads, and we did it by borrowing the money for it.
Okay. What's the status of my ethics inquiry?
I can't answer that. Mr. Kovic?
I know that Mr. Nocella, the town attorney, has been working diligently on that. He has it as a high priority, and I'll ask him to touch base with you about it at the earliest opportune time.
And by the way, just so you know, Mr. Cacci, Mr. Nocella actually would be here tonight. Unfortunately, his brother-in-law at age 52 passed away today, and he was forced to leave. or Mr. Nocella.
Sorry
be
to
able
hear
address
that.
it. So I know, and so when he gets back, I'll ask him to follow up.
But at the end of March, I was told that they were going to meet, the ethics board was going to meet, and as far as I know from the answers he gave me, all the ethics board members haven't even received my inquiry yet. And I submitted the inquiry on December 31st of 2020. So this is not like I just did it yesterday and then, I'm rushing you or anything. The ethics law does say that it should be prompt, and I think that 3.5 months is not prompt. I don't think anyone would argue, maybe you will, that it is prompt. I think that you've been dragging your feet on it, and that's a problem. Okay, just on the one thing, on the marijuana law, I read in the press that the board plans on banning the sale of marijuana in the town. I think it would be a good idea to hold a referendum to see what the people think of it. The most significant changes that will occur if the state allows the legal sale of marijuana will be the additional tax revenue. Marijuana is readily available right now. Even was illegal. It was illegal when I went to high school. It was all over the place back then. And basically the police, Nassau County Police, don't do anything when they catch kids smoking marijuana. So they don't even enforce the illegality of it now. I'm not sure,
How many ride-alongs have you done with the Nassau County Police Department?
I 4 times they were called at Averill Park, and 4 times they did nothing.
So you've never rode around with...
I never rode along.
Oh, okay, very good, thank you.
4 times. I'm speaking from my experience, and I've said this before when they talked about the vaping, because there's a sign in the park that says no smoking of any type in my park, and when I call the police to enforce the law, they don't do anything. I'm just saying this is what happens, and I don't think they would let me do a ride-along, and I think that's a silly remark for you to make.
Absolutely. Next, I have Dorothy Krimsky. Ms. Krimsky might be outside. Come back. Next, I have Stuart Kroll. Good evening, Mr. Kroll. If you just give your name and address to the record. Thank you.
Sure. Stuart Kroll, Great Neck. Here we are in the middle of April, and the shelter is still closed. 15 cats per week are being fixed, plus a similar amount at Central Vet. An appointment is necessary, which is not how trappers can work. The cats may not be aware that their trapping appointment is the next day. One of the most well-known and successful trappers on Long Island went so far as to say that Hempstead Shelter is basically useless to him at this point because they can't plan ahead for it. I think it is time we drop the absurd claim of employee safety. 10,000 people can attend a Yankee game. 20,000 people will attend an MMA event in Las Vegas very shortly. How is it not safe for volunteers to enter the shelter on a 65-degree day to walk the dogs? TNR is essentially a contactless situation which should immediately be reinstituted at full capacity. If the town doctor has reservations, perhaps he should re-examine your numerous maskless photos with zero social distancing. This has got the earmarks of a miserable kitten season where many animals that normally would be brought inside and get homes will instead suffer outside and never get a home. No doubt the fewer animals fixed and brought into the shelter, the more money that will go back into the general fund. Incidentally, 89 cats were euthanized early this year. We foiled the medical notes on each cat. They are now 6 months approximately late in responding to our request. If these requests are not fulfilled shortly, I will personally file an Article 78 and see if we can get some action that way. It appears as though hiring an unqualified behaviorist has put the town in a rather untenable position. A substantial lawsuit has justly been filed against the town and the individual in question for significant injuries that a woman incurred at the hands of an aggressive dog. She was never informed as to the aggressive history of this dog. How could the town hire a woman who is eminently unqualified for this position? This is a hypersensitive position at the shelter, directly impacting the future of many innocent animals and people alike. The adopter in question has no idea what she was getting herself into. This dog lost its life for no reason, and she has significant injuries and suffering, so an unqualified individual, Christy Fonte, could be hired. It is way past time that the town's behavior be curtailed. If I were you, I would settle with her immediately before the inevitable publicity of the case ensues. I would also like to know if somebody wants to tell me who personally reviewed her application and decided she was the right applicant for the job. The applicant they wanted hired and had asked for 50% less money, than Fonte ultimately received. Most of her credentials were outright fabrications. Who did she know that made the town pick her? To use a baseball analogy, it would be akin to picking a 220 hitter for your team instead of choosing Willie Mays. I think the days of giving contracts because it's a friend's cousin or a racetrack buddy is no longer viable. The taxpayer will suffer because of this gross negligence and stupidity. I would suggest that along with the scrutiny that this woman's lawsuit will bring, that the town immediately institute the full TNR services. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Thanks for visiting the town of Hempstead. Next, I'm going to call Stephanie Siderman. If you give a second, my wife's down. If you just give your name and address for the record, please.
Hi,
My
my name's Stephanie Sitterman.
I apologize. That's on me. Siderman, you got it.
It's okay. I represent the Safe Center, Bethpage, New York. Good evening. I want to thank Supervisor Clavin and the Hempstead Town Board for allowing me to speak today, and also Matthew Kapp and Tiffany Franco of the Communications Department. My name is Dr. Stephanie Sitterman. I'm a pediatrician currently working at the Safe Center. It is a nonprofit organization located in Nassau County that provides free, confidential services for victims of abuse and assault and their non-offending family members. Our clients are children, women, men, elderly, anyone who's been victimized by rape and sexual assault, domestic and dating violence, child neglect, severe abuse, human trafficking, and elder abuse and maltreatment. Services include, but not limited to, counseling, advocacy, both in the court and in the hospital, legal services and housing. Our Safe Home currently has 17 beds, and we've recently been approved to build another home here in Nassau County. April is both National Child Abuse Prevention Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Just to give you some idea of the incidence of child abuse and neglect locally, on Long Island in 2018, there were over 15,000 referrals made to Child Protective Services involving 18,000 children. Of those children, more than 25% were deemed to be victims of abuse and assault. Majority of them were due to neglect, followed by physical and then sexual abuse. When we talk about sexual assault involving a child, we oftentimes refer to it as the silent epidemic. 2/3 of all victims, including adults and children, are 17 years of age and under, and the number is probably a lot higher because the majority of them, about 90%, never tell anyone about it. Sexual abuse includes both touching and not touching activities, including the use of social media and the internet by offenders to access their child victims. In addition to all these services, the Safe Center presents community workshops and other events, providing the participants with the knowledge and tools they need to recognize child abuse and neglect and to prevent it from occurring in their communities. Trainings are offered for students from elementary school through college, professionals, parents, and other adults. If you go to our website, tscli.org, under Education and Training, you'll find a list of all our trainings and events. I want to thank the town of Hempstead for supporting and joining the Safe Center in raising awareness about child maltreatment and its prevention. If you do suspect that a child may be a victim or someone may be an offender, please call our 24/7 hotline at 516-542-0404. Thank you very much.
Doctor, thank you very much for coming in, and again, I know the good work you do out there, and I'd love to do a follow-up for some advocacy information we can distribute out to the residents here in the town. And thank you once again. And Kathy Malone is going to contact you, or maybe she'll meet you in the back right now to start the process of working with you. But thank you again for your advocacy, and we're delighted to team up with you for awareness. Thank you very, very much. Next, I have Barbara Hafner. She might be outside. Christine Kolika. She might be outside. Anthony Ferrante. Marvin Amazin? Good evening, Mr. Amazin. If you would just give your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Marvin Mason, and I live in 221 Lawson Street, Hempstead, New York. Give me one moment, actually. So I just had a couple of questions, if you could just give me 1 second. Starting with the first, I just wanted to know, how do we get something on the calendar or the agenda for one of these board meetings?
It depends what it is you're looking for. Is it development? Is it legislation? Is it it depends what it is. What I'd say is, first off, you start by reaching out, in all due respect to the Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, and seeing, what it is you're looking to advocate and want to have on the calendar, and start the conversation there. Councilwoman?
Definitely.
Okay, and if you've done that...
Oh, hold on.
The last time I was at the meeting, the same thing happened. I actually sent a couple of emails this week trying to reach you as well. I made a couple of phone calls this week as well, spoke to a couple of your secretaries, spoke to Clarence as well. He told me he was going to get back to me at the end of last week, and he has not done so at all. That's, at this point, I just came here to try to see you in person and see if we can actually get to setting something up where we can actually start to do something together.
The Councilwoman's assistant is going to try and schedule a meeting with you right now. She's going to go in the back, and you can work out a couple of dates.
All right, and I also had a couple other questions as well. So when we FOIL information, how long is that supposed to take to come back?
Charles?
Freedom of information, we get back to you within 5 days to let you know the time frame that it will take to compile the information. If in fact we do have information, we will then do so as quickly as possible.
Okay, so after my FOIA request, it's supposed to take 5 days until you get back to me and tell me that you've received my FOIA request, and that it will take a certain amount of time for me to get back the information that I've requested.
That is correct.
Okay, just making sure, because that's not what I'm accustomed to with the town of Hempstead, so I just want to make sure that's what we're following when we do FOIA requests here. Thank you. I'll be ready to speak to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Amazin. Thank you very much. Next, I'm going to call Jonathan Prevost. Good evening, Mr. Prevost. If you give me name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Jonathan Prevost, and I live at 863 Dean Drive, Bolden, New York, 11510. Good evening, Town Supervisor Don Clavin and honorable council members. Thank you for approving the arterial stops in Baldwin. I'm a resident on that block, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, my question is directed to you. The road conditions of Coast Neck Road into Woodside Avenue are deteriorating, as well as Fenimore Place. I've contacted your office regarding this matter. Can you please tell me the process to getting this issue resolved? It has been an outstanding issue over the past 5 years. Also, I'd like to point out that there are repairs needed at Coast Neck Park as well.
What I'll say right now is who's here from the engineering department?
Did you meet with him?
No, who's here from the engineering department?
I think he is, right?
Is Commissioner Tooman here? Deputy here? We're gonna set up a meeting with you and either the Commissioner of Engineering or the Deputy, okay?
Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Can you stick around for 1 second? I'm going to ask Kathy Malone to go in the back and get name and address so we can get the contact and follow up with the meeting, all right? Not a problem. Next, I have Diane Madden. Good evening, Ms. Madden. If you give your name and address to the record, thank you.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. Just a quick question. I noticed that you settled the Double Eagle lawsuit. It appears that you settled it for the same amount that under Gillen, she was looking to settle it about 2 years ago. Is that correct?
I can't speak for what my predecessor did.
Well, I can tell you that she tried to settle it for $85,000 and the board turned it down. So it makes the appearance that an outside law firm who, by the way, I'm told is a big Republican club donor, worked on this for 2 years for an $85,000 settlement. And I was estimating that the town has paid out tax money about $1 million. So it makes sense that you're asking people to get attorneys because your attorneys keep the meter running. The TNR program, is there any reopening of the entire TNR program? Is the date on that?
As you're well aware, we have reopened the program on a limited basis and also put another outside entity into effect to address the situation. And when the doctor gives us the authority based on the state guidelines, absolutely.
By the state guidelines, the state guidelines do not recommend that it stays closed. And I noticed that you have the director who has completely mismanaged this animal shelter since 2014, taking up a seat, and yet he never goes to the microphone, he never responds to any questions, and it makes the appearance that you are holding people out, the public, out in an outside room and taking up seats of your most faithful loyalists. Why is he here?
I noticed you were seated here, so thank you.
Excuse me?
I noticed you were sitting here too, so I'm just saying, I don't think that's accurate.
Well, that is accurate. There are people outside still waiting.
Okay.
I'm asking again if you'll allow virtual comment during miscellaneous and also during the administrative calendar, especially since you're hanging your hat on COVID. I think the very least you can do is allow the public to express their opinions and ask the board questions that are not comfortable with coming to town hall or unable. I'm also asking again and proposing that you bring in an outside diversity consultant. Your hiring is completely discriminatory, and there are people in Hempstead, in fact, within minutes from this town hall, that would appreciate a six-figure job. And I'm not talking about the entry-level jobs. I'm talking about the jobs that you give out to your friends and family. Please bring in a diversity consultant. As far as the animal shelter, is the van, the surgical van, being used outside of the animal shelter at all at this point?
Commissioner Marino?
Thank you, Supervisor and council members. At this time, because of social distancing and the state's order, we're limiting it to the, to town hall.
Thank you.
I just want to remind this board that the Garden City Board, it's been really troubling to me how you treat some constituents and how you treat other constituents based on how you feel about them. And I just want to remind you that the entire Garden City Board was just flipped and overturned because of their mistreatment to the public. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. Next, I have an Angela Zingon. Okay. John Gunther. Good evening. If you give me a name and address for the record, please.
Jonathan Gunther, address is 83 Silver Lane, Levittown, New York. And I'm on here on behalf of the Nassau County Libertarian Party because I am the Nassau County Libertarian Party Executive Chairman. There's a lot of questions I have, but I'm going to stick with a specific topic, and someone mentioned this already. Recently, New York State legalized the recreational use of marijuana. This is a huge stepping stone towards individual freedom in New York State. Unfortunately, this board has laid down the sentiment of being opposed to the state's decision. The board has called for all 59 municipalities to opt out of selling marijuana. The board has made it clear that they do not defend individual freedoms. This is not the first attack on individual freedom I've seen that the board has made. I encourage the board to change their sentiment on the issue and stand by the people's freedoms. I encourage every member on the board to do some research on the topic of why it should be legal and allowed, because apparently no one here has any knowledge of the situation. What you will find in your research is the moral and economical reasons why we should accept marijuana in the town of Hempstead. And I know Councilman, the first person who spoke, one of the councilmen gave him a lot of attitude about marijuana and asked him if he did ride-alongs. My family is full of cops. My brother's an NYPD officer, mom's a retired detective, and parents are stepfather retired sergeant. I can tell you they are totally against what you're doing, your sentiment, and they are for legalizing marijuana. And my brother, who's a New York City police officer, has, I can tell you from personal experience, have let people go for marijuana. Thankfully, if you have read the law, it is a referendum vote. The body has no power to create a vote. If I read the law correctly, it goes straight to referendum. But as elected officials, you should be steering people in the right directions and on being against the use of drugs, because I'm against the use of drugs. I don't believe that people should do drugs, but I can't force my morals and values on other people using government, which would be the town of Hempstead. So we can, as a town council, you should be able to steer people in the right direction, but defend people's freedoms. So I hope that this board changes the sentiment, because if they don't, it's clear that you do not defend individual freedom. And if that is so, then you should be voted out of office. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gunther. Next, I have Claudia Canman. Good evening. If you can name an address for the record.
I am Claudia, and I'm actually from Suffolk County. Good evening, everyone. In January, I came to my first meeting. I expressed my concern for the overwhelming population on Hofstra's campus. I told you a story about a 10-week-old kitten I rescued who I had to put down because she was the product of generations of inbreeding. I reiterated that action needed to be taken and no animal deserves to suffer like this. You chose not to do anything. Since September, TLC and I have TNR'd 90 cats from Hofstra's campus alone. Think about it. Let that sink in. A full-time law student fixed 90 cats in this township since September. We did something we've never done before. We held 2 feral TNR clinics. If we had waited, I would be on my hands and knees right now searching for 8 different litters of kittens, suffering and enduring the horrors of an outdoor life. I have prevented, single-handedly, 500 kittens from being born in this town alone. I'm sure you appreciate all of the work TLC and I have done, and I am dedicated to these animals, and as a way to say thank you, I would really appreciate it if this town would reimburse TLC for every cat we fixed out of your $5.5 million budget. If you choose not to reimburse me, that's totally okay. You can give me your gorgeous $500,000 mobile vet van, and I will happily hold 2 more clinics and fix more cats in this town. 80% of kittens are born outdoors in America. That is not okay. And I was certainly disappointed to hear that a trapper who brought a pregnant cat to you to be TNR'd was turned away and told to set this cat up in her garage. Not only is that inhumane to force an animal to give birth in a stressful environment, but it also puts people at risk. Not to mention it's a horrible use of resources, because in the 3 months that that animal is stuck indoors, you could have saved 2 litters of kittens on your streets suffering. I would love to send you my invoice for my 90 cats, or you can just give me, the A-OK and let me know when I can have the clinic. The TNR program should be up and running at full capacity, because you know what? I just proved to you it can be done safely, it can be done effectively, and it can be done within the confines of this pandemic. You all have problems. Every person in this room has a problem. Your job is to solve those problems, except I am here to offer you a solution to your feral cat problem. And while this might not seem like, the greatest or biggest problem in your eyes, every animal lover in this town sees it as an issue. I can aid you in solving this feral cat problem. With one less thing to worry about, you can actually focus on the other issues within this township. Again, I am a full-time law student. I don't even live in this town, and yet somehow I managed to fix 90 cats without your help. Now imagine what I could actually do with support, help, and assistance from your $5.5 million program.
Thank you for coming. Next, I'm going to call up Marcia DiTieri. Hi, Mr. Thierry, how are you? If you give me a name and address for the record, please.
Marcia D. Thierry, Lee Avenue, Merrick, New York. Kudos to that woman. I don't fix as many cats as she does, but I do TNR also on the side with my own money and use so many of your resources in the past. And I'm asking you also to please reinstate at full capacity your TNR program. You know, it's worth the lives of so many animals. But I'm here again about the Tree Preservation Act and updating it. I haven't spoke with Ms. Moriartis. Is that how I don't know how she says her name. I had requested, I know she was out, I had requested her to call me to give me any updates that you had regarding the Tree Preservation Act. I know you were talking about grants to initiate a tree planting program again. I haven't heard.
Just so you know, we found out what Oyster Bay was doing law-wise, North Hempstead, and now we're actually reaching out to all the villages and townships out in Suffolk County. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we also applied for a grant for a tree program as well, and we're waiting to see if we get awarded for that too. So that's where we are right now. I'm trying to find out what else Suffolk County's doing in respect to it, particularly the towns of Babylon, Brookhaven, but also the villages out there. And then when we come up with an idea of what everyone else is doing and we feel comfortable with, then I'll talk to the town board. But also, if we get the grant approval, we will, of course, supplement trees in the area.
The grant program will be to plant trees, nothing to do with the tree preservation.
No, not until we make a determination on that, no. The grant program will be separate. Planting will be separate than the tree program.
And I know you haven't been in office for 5 years, but for the past 5 years, I presented it, and most of the board members that are here today heard this and knew the laws of Oyster Bay and North Hempstead. In Oyster Bay, even today, you cannot cut down a tree on your property in the front or back of your yard if it's healthy and there is no danger. And if you do it, there's a hotline that you can call and we'll stop that person immediately. I mean, it's been 5 years I've been asking about this, and I've never seen so many trees being cut down in the town of Hempstead. Their homes are worth a lot, and people move there because it's aesthetically beautiful, it's healthy, and the values of homes go up when you have tree-lined trees. So, I mean, it's a win-win for all, and maybe not for the developers, but for us. So, please, it's been 5 years before there's none left. Okay?
Understood. But like I said, we actually, after you came here one of the nights, we actually found the grant based on your advocacy. So that was a positive step. But like I said, I think it's just trying to find what everyone's doing across the island with it, and then coming up with a comprehensive plan that's going to fit here and in the town board. But you know what? We will keep you informed on the others. I promise that, okay?
Do you have any idea how long that'll be?
Right now, I know that we're waiting for responses from the town of Babylon and Brookhaven. We've gone online to look at the different laws. I don't want to give a timetable, but I'll say fairly, we'll try and give you an update before the next town board meeting.
Please, and Oyster Bay especially. I mean, God bless him for hotlines that if you see something being done that shouldn't, they stop it immediately.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you again. I do not have any other slips. Dominic? That is it? All right. Well, with that, I say everybody safe travels home, and good evening, and thank you very much for coming.